Well, we'll talk about both oil and grains, commodities in Nigeria. But let's start with security. We had that conversation right there, and it's really becoming a worrying thing for Nigeria. Children, women being kidnapped, and general kidnapping, even for the men. This is, of course, affecting the livelihood of individuals and lives, and affecting food security. Well, it's just what's happening in the country, and we can't seem to run away from that. So let's touch a bit on that, and then on the commodity space with the Chief Executive Officer of Financial Derivatives Company, Mr. Bismarck Rewane, joins us virtually from Victoria Island. Mr. Rewane, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, so it's really becoming, we can hardly conclude a news bulletin every day without the story of there's been kidnap, there's been rampage, this village or community has been attacked. So first of all, obviously, when we talk about commodity and the surging price, we cannot just connect it to the drop in the value of the dollar or imports, which we've seen increasing. Supply is also feeding into this majorly at this time.
Yes, I think you need to understand in economics we talk about cause and effect. What causes crime, what causes insecurity could have its origin in economic insecurity. So you've got to look at it holistically rather than look at it in silos. Yes, these are symptoms of failure. These are symptoms of state capture. These are symptoms of cumulative effect of economic policy misalignment over time. But having said that, the reality is that today we are in a high inflation environment. Inflation is a thief of value and also erodes personal income. When incomes erode, then people take the laws into their hands. Now, where are we today? The answer is that we went to the markets last 48 hours to carry out our survey, and we are seeing a projected headline inflation of about 31.04, and also food inflation of about 37%. Now, most importantly is the fact that we picked out certain commodities, which is important that you note. Garri went up by 6% to 32,000 naira a bag, but beans went up by also 6.67% to 80,000 naira a bag. 80,000 naira. And then the biggest culprit of all is rice. Rice went up by 18.75%. Imported bag of rice is now 95,000 naira. And of course, tomatoes up to 35,000 naira. What does this mean? And why is it happening at this time? First and foremost, this is the month of Easter, and this is the month of Ramadan. So we can understand rice, because people are preparing and buying in advance. And also tomatoes, because fasting period, when people break their fast, they have a lot of fruits, including tomatoes. So we've seen those two. But what we've seen is that even though the exchange rate has appreciated gradually, just might about 1,610 naira a dollar, it takes time for the prices of commodities to reflect this new value of the dollar, because people bought products, they paid duty at the ports, and they cannot sell their stock which they brought in at a loss. So what you are seeing is, one, prices not coming down, in spite of the fact that the exchange rate has appreciated a little bit, but also people are also seasonality. This is the planting season, so obviously some products are not in the market, but also position their goods for the Easter Ramadan period. Ramadan only started yesterday. So that's what we are seeing out there initially.
So just as you noted yesterday, we saw that the Naira appreciated 0.31%, even though it's still in its 1,600. I wonder which force wins if the Naira continues to appreciate, hopefully, because we did see that last week, Monday, it appreciated, but every other day of the week, it depreciated. But assuming that the Naira continues to appreciate, but we don't handle this issue of supply, especially the food, when it comes to insecurity, can we still get maybe a little bit of positive in that area of inflation?
You will get positive. Let me tell you why. First of all, you have to look at, when you look at economic trajectories, you ask yourself, if the Naira had continued depreciating at the rate at which it was depreciating, by now we will be at 2,400 or 2,500. So the fact that it has not gone in that direction is one. Two, the fact that it is stabilizing It's also another thing. 3 is that will it begin to appreciate and then show to what level? Don't forget that Goldman Sachs says that the Naira will get to 1,200 by their own calculations. But what I want us to understand fully is that prices do not move like a light bulb, right? It takes time. If you have your stock of inventory that you bought, you have to sell it or then buy new commodities to bring your average down. So it is when, one, the central bank begins to sell consistently into the market. 2, that the BDCs, after sanitizing the market, you have BDCs now begin to sell and buy currency. There'll be sanitization in the market. There will be, increase in supply, and then there'll be stability, right? And those are the things that happen in the foreign exchange market. But the foreign exchange content of price increase in Nigeria is only a part of it. There are other things that go into supply logistics, and more than anything else, the price of diesel. Diesel is selling today at 1,451 Naira a liter, and it almost always kind of mirrors the exchange rate. And I think that's important to note. But I think that the supply shortage can be dealt with by imports, that we can have short-term import measures that will bring in commodities very quickly to at least bring prices down initially. And then when they stabilize, you allow your growing season and all your farmers and all your initiatives to begin to address the medium-term shortage of food in the country. Most of these things because of shortage of foodstuff. And I think I heard, and it's yet to be confirmed, that the borders may be open. If the borders are open, it allows some foodstuff to come in from across the country, from a neighboring country. But we cannot rely on that. What we have to rely on is if we have official imports by the government and it is well distributed, that may bring down prices initially. But the long-term answer to this is having a stable, well-managed exchange rate. 2, having increased in productivity, and more than anything else, encouraging investments into all of these sectors. All of these things put together will give you a long-term goal of improving economic productivity in both the agricultural sector and the manufacturing sector of Nigeria.
Yeah, so Mr. Rewane, a bit of good news to see in the first quarter that oil exports rose by almost 21%. I guess that's also feeding into, or maybe we have not started feeling the impact yet on the value of the Naira.
No, I think it's good news, but we need to take this very carefully and understand it. What has happened is that most of the production that you're seeing there comes from the deep water and offshore assets. In those assets, what accrues to Nigeria is very limited because this is where the international oil companies have their investments, and we have what we call the production sharing contracts, where Nigeria gets a lower share of the oil, as distinct from the joint ventures which are on land and so on. The joint ventures where insecurity, where vandalism and pipeline activities have affected our production. So whilst our production has increased, it does not necessarily translate into an increase in our revenue. It only means that the output has increased. So you'll see it reflect in the GDP, as you saw the GDP numbers came out, but it will not reflect in the dollar receipts of the federal government. Therefore, we still have a situation where we need to raise dollars. How do you raise dollars at this time? One of the shortest ways of doing that is to borrow some more. I think that when Nigerians hear borrowing, they scream that, okay, if you borrow, the money is going to be stolen. There's a right, it's right to have that fear. But in the circumstances we need to refinance our existing debt, and then also meet with our creditors and investors, assure them that things are all right. And then they then begin to increase their investments in Nigeria. We saw that already with the higher interest rates in the treasury bill market, where international investors came in. It gives us short-term relief, it's hot money, but in the end, you can take hot money and substitute it with stable and cold money later on, and then the economy begins to begin to enjoy the benefits of macroeconomic stability rather than a speculative activity of arbitrageurs.
All right, Mr. Bismarck Rewane, Chief Executive Officer with Financial Derivatives Company, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll still talk about how the insecurity incidents in the country is affecting investor sentiment, especially in states, because we do hope the subnationals can attract investment in their states too. But that's after this break. You stay with us.